Solak is one of those bosses that I will find myself coming back to every once in a while, and I've been meaning to update this guide in particular for quite a while. So today, once again, I am updating my Magic Camp Solo Solak guide. If you find any of my guides useful or happen to find this one useful, consider subscribing as you will be updated on when I post future content, and it helps out the channel more than you know. So the only thing that's really changed with Solo Solak, with Magic Camp at least, is the fact that we have these tier 95 dual wield weapons, and we have this little thing called Temporal Anomaly, which is the first damage focused aspect in game, rather than the ones that we normally have like Animate Dead or Darkness. Those are both defensive in nature. Now I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole on my entire thoughts about Temporal Anomaly, but if you would like to see that video on me discussing my actual thoughts on it, leave it in the comments down below. But these are the two main things that have changed since that last guide. Now the main difference in the preset is I have different colored rune pouches, and that is because I have now fit time runes in this preset. Now I'm going to go over why I've been using Temporal Anomaly at Solak, and that is because in Solo, Darkness doesn't do anything, and neither does Animate Dead, because I never use any tank gear or even a shield swap, and that is because Solak has 100% accuracy on you. Darkness is not going to be able to dodge anything that has perfect accuracy. So regardless on whether I'm using Elite Tech or the Sliske effect, I go ahead and toss it on just because I can. There's nothing else to really go in that slot, so I might as well. And real quick, I'm not the biggest fan of the gambling nature with something like this, where you're basically hoping to get a reset that's even rarer than a wand spec refresh, which is benefited by armor that produces much less adrenaline per sunshine than something like Sliske. But with a Calg and a Grim, you can get enough adrenaline. Getting into the gear, you can use either Elite Tech or Sliske, and you're going to notice pretty much the same kill times. With Magic Camp, in recent testing, I've seen anywhere from 5:30s up to about the 6-minute mark, so like a 5:45 average, I guess you could say. And what Temporal Anomaly does is essentially gives you a chance to refresh all of your abilities. So essentially, anytime you press Omni Power, you have a 13.1% chance, if you look right there, and it gets this number by checking what power gear you have equipped, or magic power gear. And yes, gloves and boot slots do count for this to refresh said ability. So in a sunshine, you should see like a couple refreshes on average. Sometimes it's on your Omni Power, sometimes it's on something not as useful like a G-Conk or something like that. Sometimes it's a Wild Magic. If you get in this fixed reset, honestly, I don't even really press it the second time. And while it is a buff to kind of bring Elite Tech onto a somewhat even playing field with Sliske, I don't really like this gambling aspect of hoping that you get refreshes. Again, I'm not going to go into like a 25-minute rant or anything like that about Temporal Anomaly. I just wanted to explain how it worked. And if you do want me to go in depth on Temporal Anomaly, I can make a video on what I truly think about it and what I think could be done to make it slightly more usable or something like that. But again, that's for a different video. Let's get back on track. Now, with this aspect, there is a new type of rune that came into game called time runes. And in order to fit these in a 3-pouch setup, I went ahead and bought some smoke runes, which replaces the air and fire runes inside of these pouches. So here I will hover over them. Feel free to copy paste if you want. I'm still using the same green pouch from my normal setup, as these runes are all very nice to have, but aren't getting replaced by the combo rune. And the reason I chose smoke rune is I believe they're dropped by Zuck and a couple other places. You could also pick lava rune. They're both relatively cheap considering what they are, although they are more expensive than taking the cost of the runes that it's replacing and adding those two together. But honestly, they're like 200 each, so I don't really mind using them all too much. And other combo runes get significantly more expensive very quickly. So again, I'll just hover over these kind of slowly. Feel free to pause the video if you need to see the pouches and what runes they contain. And for the rest of the preset, I do have my Elite Tech, because my logic here is if I'm gonna Magic Camp, I'm not exactly going for the spiciest Solak times in Solo ever. I'm more so here just kind of doing a relaxed hour, so to speak. And if I'm having a relaxed hour, I might as well toss on the armor set that has some better defense sense for Solak. The armor rating you will notice between Sliske and Elite Tech. And if I was going to bring both armor sets and switch between the two, I would probably just end up doing a hybrid setup anyways. So Magic Camp for me is definitely just the relaxed method. And I figure, you know what, I'll just take the extra armor bonus so that way I'm not taking quite as much damage from Solak, and I do get the extra gamble chance on this aspect. And the kill times between running Sliske and running Elite Tech are relatively the same. Obviously, if you're going for gamble resets on an aspect, you're going to have a wider variance because sometimes you get all the refreshes, sometimes you get none, whereas Sliske is going to be a little bit more consistent as it's basically feeding you infinite adrenaline all the time. So whichever set you have perked up, feel free to bring it. It's not going to change a whole lot. I run Cinderbanes because Solak is one of the bosses that is poisonable. It's an older boss, so they allowed us to use weapon poison back then. Enhanced Blast Diffusion boots. These are just best in slot boots for Magic Camp. Grim doesn't consume any charge, so I definitely bring this. Plus, we want the crit chance for magic. That's kind of like the identity of this entire combat style. I wear the Nexus so that way it's T95 instead of T60. If you wanted to, you could put this in the inventory and it would be just fine if you want to put a quiver here for a Greco swap. But when I Magic Camp, I don't really use a Greco swap all too much. Again, this is more for a relaxed kind of for fun hour of just getting some Grim pages, or if I just want to do some casual Solak. Reaver Ring, just for the crit chance. The EOFs, I have a Iban staff and a G staff. If you have one or both and like using those, feel free to bring it. I like Iban staff, and sometimes I use G staff based on adrenaline. If you don't want to bring one, you don't really have to. It is what it is. In the Zuck Cape, again, you don't need the hybrid one. If you want to follow this guide, just have the normal Magic Cape. It'll work just fine. And other than that, inventory is very straightforward. We have some food here. I use Blue Blubbers and Guthix Brews, or the Super Guthix Brews, so that way I don't drain my adrenaline or my stats during the fight when chugging down a bunch of food. You could replace these with Guthix Rest Flasks if you wanted, because I believe they are slightly cheaper. Yeah, they're significantly cheaper. I just use these because I have them and it's what I use for everything. Honestly, just use whichever one you happen to have on hand. I do keep an overload because sometimes fights go a little bit longer because I make mistakes. You know, I'm not perfect by any means. Vitpot is nice for phase 1. However, it's not really necessary in solo. Although if you get a bomb on phase 2, that is pretty close to you and you don't want to move because you're in like attendees or you're doing some kind of other channeled ability and you just want to tank the bomb hit, this is actually pretty nice for phase 2, so I would definitely bring it. You could skip on the Blessed Flask if there's something else you want to bring, because Powder of Penance will definitely keep up prayer for you. And then we just have Vuln Bombs, my FSOA, and a combat dummy. The dummy is not used for any sort of pre-build. It's actually used for phase 4 when Solak is not attackable, so that way I can start working on building up a Metamorphosis a little bit sooner. And then for relics, I run Zerker Fury, COE, and Font of Life. Zerk Fury just for the extra damage, COE because you're going to be using Nami, you're going to be using Omni, you're going to be using Sunshine, and it's definitely better to buff all 3 of those rather than just only benefit from one. And then Font of Life just happens to fit in there nicely. I will pop Lantidime and I will pop Quarm Incense Sticks. A Quarm is definitely nice for poison damage, and the Lantidime just to make overloads last a bit longer. Sometimes I use Powder of Penance, sometimes I don't, just depends on how I'm feeling. Most of the time I will end up using it so that way I don't really pull from my Blessed Flask, but I definitely keep the Blessed Flask handy just because sometimes I will forget to pop Powder of Penance and it's nice to have a prayer backup. And then I use a Calgarian Demon, pop some scrolls in, use a weapon triple plus, and other than that, we'd be off to the races. So let's go ahead and run an example kill. Alrighty, I have the preset loaded up and ready to go. I definitely did not have swap to normals or standard spellbook in my smoke cloud spot because I was doing a farm run earlier. That definitely did not happen, but we don't need to stall anything, so we just grab our adrenaline and we go in. Now I'll explain it real quick because there's a couple of actions I'm doing here before I actually start the kill, and that is I'll toss a Vuln Bomb with a Sunshine input, wait a tick, and then right click quick start, and then target cycle smoke cloud G-Conk, and then go over, hit my A-pot, and then kind of just do a sun rotation from there. But I wanted to explain that starting sequence because I was not going to be able to say all that with the start of the kill and doing it live. But that's enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get into a kill. So we'll get it started up here. Target cycle smoke cloud. Apod, D-Breath into a Corrupt Blast. Auto Nami into a Fasoa Spec. G-Conk, another ability. Auto into a Wild Magic, hit our Vitpot. We hit a 2-hit as Fix. Omni Power. We got a refresh, so that's interesting. And here I'm just going to tick the Disrupt Shield there. Hit another Omni Power into a G-Conk. Maybe an Iban. And toss out a 10Ds while I still have some FSOA spec. And here I'll hit another Corrupt, a Wand spec, and a Combust. Oh, the Wand spec refreshed, so that's good. So we can just start kind of killing these off. You want to make sure he's below 1.5, and then you just kind of run around and kill all the roots. Ice Rack will kill them. Sometimes a G-Conk with a second ability will do it. That one didn't die, but it's fine. Toss a couple more bleeds, maybe a bleed on this one. Oh, Crackling killed that one. That was nice. And then I just run over here, toss a Sunshine down, target the far one. Hit a D-Breath and then Auto Nami. And if you want to, you can G-Chain this one and hit FSOA spec, but that one was already dead, so it's fine. Then G-Conk, charge up a Detonate, release with a Dragon Breath. Hit a bleed on this one and a Wild Magic. Vuln Bomb over here. Target the core and hit an Omni Power into a Tendrils. Let that play out. Maybe into a Asphyx. I'll just hit it with G-Staff so it dies. And then what I'll do here is we'll go for a Storm Skip. So I'll target cycle that guy, hit a bleed and a Wand spec. Then use the buffed Combust on this one. Maybe a Wild Magic. One's dead, and I'll hit this one with an Asphyx. Maybe this one with a Corrupt Blast and like a G-Conk building up here with a Dragon Breath. Use an ability, go for a res maybe. Start our Sunshine, re-Smoke Cloud with an Apot, and just kind of do some standard stuff from here. Auto Nami, FSOA spec, swap over to Exsanguinate. G-Conk, didn't get a Dren there, so I'll just D-Breath, Auto Wild, 2-hit Asphyx. Maybe hit an Omni Power. Didn't get refreshed this time. We did not get lucky on our gambling. Maybe Auto into an Iban. G-Conk into a Tendies. We did get a Nami refresh. That's kind of an odd one. Sometimes if I notice it early enough, I will go ahead and use Nami again, but there I got an Asphyx reset, and for some reason I pressed it. Still have 1,000,000 HP, so maybe use a Wand spec and charge up a Detonate and just kind of thresh from here. Go ahead and release with a Magma Tempest. Grab our Blessing. Pop down our little thing so we don't die from the bomb hits. Hit Rack and Ruin so we get a buff to Combust. But I didn't get to walk it in time, so it is what it is. You can also use like Debilitate here and stuff and eat some food. If you want to res a melee hit, go for it. Freedom here. Now he's at phase HP, which is 800k, but you can damage past it to lower this percentage bar. I'll go ahead and toss an Omni Power just to help get some damage out. Revuln, stuff like that. It's definitely on the slower end, but it is what it is. I'm just going to build up now. And I'll hit a Preparation and then drop the Sunshine. And hit a Divert. Sometimes that auto is faster and you won't notice it or be able to divert there. Just divert the next hit. It's not too big of a deal. Nami, FSOA spec, and just kind of build a Dren. Go for same thing as usual. Auto Wild Magic, 2-hit Asphyx. The bread and butter of magic DPM. And here I'll go for an Auto Nami. We got an Omni refresh, which is interesting. So I'll just G-Conk into another one. We hit an Iban. And a Tendrils. And I'll bleed, hit a Wand spec while he's running over. Stun for that hit, and then Freedom afterwards. You can anticipate for it if you want. And the goal HP here is Get them to like 275 and your metamorph on P4 should be fine. But I can get him down even lower here. Omni should be back for Aerith Door. Into a G-Conk. And then release detonate with an Asphyx or anything else really. And then just kind of build up from here. Use another G-Conk. Maybe another bleed, hope it refreshes. It did. And he's dead. This is where we drop our combat dummies so I can get my Nami and my FSOA spec out. And then I'm feeling an Earth Metamorph, so I'll just auto-click that, or auto-cast it so I get it. And then hit my Metamorph key. G-Conk. Into a Wild Magic, or a Wand spec, I should say. Tendies. Omni Power into a Ivan Staff, and that should be kill. It's not. A Deep Breath there, 97 HP. Nothing too fancy there. That's pretty straightforward magic damage. And then we teleport out, get our bank preset, go check our loot with Luck of the Dwarves, see if we get lucky. And we were not lucky, so it is what it is, but we got our guaranteed Grim page, which is the nice thing about Solak. And I'll just recap the big picture of what I do here, which is I Sunshine phase 1 and then kill all of the roots, Sunshine the arms and legs. I'll then Threshold and use the Wand spec as needed on the eruptions, drop a Sunshine north on that rock to avoid a decent amount of the bombs. And then I will continue to Thresh and use Wand spec and a couple other things like that, so I can drop a Sun on the start of phase 3. That Sun I do not use APOT because I used it on phase 2, and then I just use a Divert to help get adrenaline. Then pull him over to the second pad. I will one-shot Aerith Door, drop the dummy when the phase 4 is starting and he's kind of invincible over there, you can't attack him. Build up the Nami, the FSOA spec. If you're really low adren on that phase 4, you can use APOT to help get you to metamorph quicker because you don't want to press metamorph too late, and then just go for the kill. I pretty much improv most of my Sunshines following kind of just the basic rotations, and I toss Wand specs in between to help kind of keep things even. If Sunshine fully clears the 500k on phase 1, obviously you don't need to toss a Wand spec out towards the end, and Wand specs are technically worthwhile inside of Sunshine because I believe the first hit of the Wand spec can crit and is buffed by 50% from Sunshine, so technically it's worthwhile, but I kind of save them for in between. I don't really want to spam a bunch of Wand specs inside of a Sunshine. Inside Metamorph, that is definitely the ideal play because Metamorph boosts the heck out of bleeds. But that is all there really is to solo Solak with magic. Thank you very much for watching. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for the next guide. Peace.